speaker for today, we have Mr. Manuel Schuller, DevOps iFire, Technical Director from CloudBees. Manuel is a senior DevOps evangelist with a 20 plus years international experience on both dev and ops solutions. He is a DevOps Institute ambassador, public speaker in events like DevOps World or DevOps Enterprise Summit, business and technical challenges solver. Loving the terms DevOps iFire and DevOpsologist with an excellent knowledge of both technologies and markets, he helps people practice DevOps principles in real-world organizations and achieve results in big DevOps transitions products. Outside of DevOps, he is a member of BIEN, a registered supporter of the Italian CDTI, and SIFPA in IFPUG. His session for today is Software BoM at the Time of DevOps and DevSecOps and VSM.
Hello, everybody. I'm Manuel Schuller. I will talk today in the context of the DevOps India Summit of software bill of material. The software bill of material at the time of DevOps, of DevSecOps, and many more. I hope we will have interest to explore together. So just to start, let me briefly introduce myself. I'm using that quote, software is eating the world, just like a lot of other people talking, I believe. But the reason is I've been working, I have the chance, I believe I can say, to work with Mark Andreessen a little bit before used that quote, software is eating the world. It was the time he had created a company called Opsware that you see in the middle here of the companies I've been working for. Basically, I've been working in software companies for 20 plus years, as we used to say. And I believe I can say we were talking about DevOps principles before it was called DevOps. So with Intersolve or Merant or Serena, Opsware or HP or other companies, we were in the heart of DevOps, preparing for what is possible today in the world of DevOps, of DevSecOps, of VSM, and working on how to engineer and how to deliver good software. So what does it mean, software is eating the world? As we all know, it means that the market cap of the companies, the biggest companies in the world, has changed, especially over the 10 or 15 last year, where we see that most of the companies today are software companies. Some of them do not even sell software. Facebook, for example, where they just rely on software to make business. And they are part of the top 5 market cap. It means that software is everywhere. Every business is now a software business. And we have to make sure, I know I'm opening some already open doors, but we have to make sure that we go fast. We drive innovation quicker than the competitor. We optimize for doing that all the DevOps chain, including security to reduce the risk. And we have to optimize the software delivery. And this is one of the main reasons that I'm talking today about software bill of material, because there are some challenges in the modern software delivery. Some of the challenges are obvious. I will not necessarily go through all that slide. You can read it and you can probably think, reading that slide, I know that problem, I know that challenge, I have to face it every day. Challenge with the language, and I'm not talking about a programming language, I'm just talking about interest and targets and aims. I I don't see the same language very often still in development departments or operations departments. There are some challenges in defining and producing desired results, target results. There's sometimes, and this is the last one, an inability to demonstrate the results and the business outcome when I'm talking about digital transformation, of creating the digital transformation. These are things that are not easy to handle and to manage. If I try to say the same with a drawing, some time ago, so I've been working, as I told you, for 20 plus years, but some time ago, we had a low complexity and a very simple way to develop. We had the requirements, we had the V cycle, and at the end of the day, at the end of the cycle, the customer was supposed to be happy. It was something very simple. Now we have a growing complexity. We have several teams, we have a number of tools, and a growing number of tools, because as probably you are doing, I am receiving every day some new and interesting news about tools in the tool chain, doing new things with Kubernetes, doing new things for chaos engineering, doing new things for managing security and shifting left the security, even doing new things with CI and CD, which would not be expected because we believe that CI and CD today is working in most of the companies. So a growing number of tools, some new processes, a risk to manage, which becomes very difficult just because of the number and the possible combinations between all these factors. So in order to control that, I have to have a view, I have to have clear vision on my software delivery, my modern software delivery, from CI to CD, orchestrating the releases, using, why not, feature management, using value stream mapping and value stream management. All of these principles have to be based on the single source of software delivery truth. Okay, the single source of truth is, for me today, the software delivery truth. How can I control the delivery of my software and know exactly what I'm delivering, what I have delivered, how can I reproduce what I have delivered? This is the purpose of my bill of material. So you've heard probably of the bill of material, which was roughly meant to describe how software was built some time ago. I remember my first bill of material, which was basically a makefile. I'm a Unix guy, so it will probably ring a bell for a lot of people listening to that talk. It was makefile, how to build, what to build, where are the sources, where are the libraries, how do I link that together, and how do I produce? We were talking about executable or another library. I will talk about an artifact, how to generate, how to produce an artifact. It was my bill of material. Now it's not enough, okay? My build process is not the complete bill of material. It's incomplete. I have to know how the software builds, but I also have to know, with that artifact that I have produced, how I will manage the different things that happened to that artifact. So how the software is released, what are the conditions for releasing the software, what are the controls, the scans, the tests I will do over the software. And all of this has to be part of my bill of material. So I am talking on that slide about extension. Okay, it's an extension of the notion. I build the software. So now what I've built, I will release it. And for releasing it, I have a process. Keeping information of everything that happened during that process will be my bill of material. Obviously, I focus on software delivery security. This is today one of the most important aspects. How do I secure my software? And not only, it's two levels. How do I secure my software? And how do I secure the supply chain of my software? So I really have two types of things to consider: the security tests that are used on my software and the security of the whole supply chain of my software, to make sure that I will bring an identified artifact, application, whatever, into production with all the required processes, checks, scans that I have defined in my process. So, in a certain way, where bill of material was made of sources, it also contains today not only the sources, but also the results of the different checks that I have made on my software. Because results will change over time. I will take a very clear and precise example in a few slides that shows how the result change over time. Because when I'm scanning, especially for security, I'm scanning against a known state of the art. And the state of the art evolves every day. Every day, I have new vulnerabilities that can be discovered. And the result of a scan today and the result of the scan tomorrow can be different, because I will run into a new vulnerability that have been discovered. It has to be part of my bill of material. It's intrinsic to the knowledge of the software I am releasing. So, going into things a little bit more pragmatic, what do I have to put in the bill of material? At least, what do I have to put? So hopefully, there is a trend over the last years that I call the AC paradigm, the Ascode paradigm, which means that now we can have most of the tools working as code. Okay, each tool, each technology has its own way of coding, its own way of expressing the state of an artifact or an element. So source code, okay, that's obvious. Source is code. Infrastructure is now code. Think about the recipes in Chef. Think about the scripts in Terraform. This is code, okay? Things about provisioning. Okay, I can provision, I can define the provisioning of a machine using one of these technologies from the bare metal. Okay, so I can also include my infrastructure. I can also include my release process. Good tools on the market have an Ascode capability that allow you to describe the process, to write it in code, or some of them make them generate the code that you have designed on the screen, on the user interface, so that you can check that code in source code repository. as well as the test scripts. Most of the tools today have that ability to code the test. So traditional ones, scanners. So I'm thinking about the AST, of course, DAST, SAST, MAST, and so on, but also the reports, the audit reports. And this is a fundamental aspect of my new bill of material at the time of DevOps, which is that I can include, and I have to include, the result of audit and compliance reports. This is very nice capability, very nice plus, because when I deliver a software, when I release a software, very often I have to go through some compliance aspects. Just think about the financial services. Just think about the banks. They all the time have to go through some compliance. Think about the health industry. They have to go through compliance. And more industries go through compliance. It means that attached to the bill of material of my software, I can include the results of the compliance report, the audit report that are immediately available in case they are asked either internally or externally. It's completely straightforward. Another aspect, which is some kind of extension, is the escrow. So for those of you who never heard about an escrow, the definition is a bond, deed, or other document which is kept in the custody of a third party and taking effect only when a specified condition has been fulfilled. The typical use of an escrow is, I am a big company. I rely on a software vendor, and when I see the industry, the software industry, I'm not sure that this very software vendor will be there, will be alive in 10 years. And if I have some regulations that need me to keep the ability to release the same software for 10 years, which was something very basic in the defense, for example, over the years, I have to have the ability to find that software and to find it in an independent way from the software vendor. So the escrow is made for that, okay? Keep in custody by a third party and taking effect when a specified condition is fulfilled. For example, the software vendor either has disappeared or has decided not to maintain anymore a tool that was used for releasing the software. So it's very important, that notion of escrow. Still, financial services are nearly all using escrow accounts. They rely on an external company to keep some information, and the bill of material is one of this information, just in case something goes wrong. It's a legal definition, it's a legal rule within most of the banks, a lot of financial services, and growing inside the companies. Just a remark on that, GitHub could have been used as an escrow. GitHub is where we started to put the source code, and then we put the code, okay? The Ascode paradigm, we put the code of everything in GitHub. It's possible. But now escrow tends to be that single source of truth. Okay, so GitHub, the difference is GitHub is not independent. It's not a third party. So it's difficult to build a legal aspect on top of it. But it's a typical use of what can be a soft escrow, I would say. On the DevOps principles, how can they help us? Continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous delivery. Basically, over what is written on the slide, and that I just want to comment, is that it's very easy to include in the CI pipeline or the CD pipeline all the steps that allow me to generate my bill of material. The purpose is to have, at the end of my release, when the software will be released, the bill of material that is ready, that is complete. I can also, by the way, and I've done it with one of my customers, I could also condition the handoff to production to the completeness of the bill of material and the registration of that bill of material into the escrow account, so that I know that the software that is running in production has an up-to-date bill of material, as that bill of material sent to the escrow account. So I'm sure that everything is complete. And what I have defined is in a safe place. So continuous integration, continuous delivery can help us automate the bill of material, which at the end of the day, and this will be one of the main conclusions, is in itself an artifact that I'm building while taking the source code, building the artifacts, make them an application, take that application, go through the different stages of the pipeline, and then at the end of the day, release it into production. There are some standards for your information, standards on the bill of material. Some of them are used. They are not necessarily all complete, but they exist. And this is already something that is interesting. So out of the standards, there are 3 of them in the industry that are really used. The ISO one, ISO could not be out of that. It's on software tag. So it's more on identifying platform and software, which is one of the first steps of my bill of material. If I can identify, then I can put behind that identification some information to build a platform or software. Cyclone DX focused on communication. So communicating inventories, communicating vulnerability, and communicating integrity of the software. It also uses the tag from the ISO, and it's probably the most recognized within software vendor. So I believe that it will be one of the trends in the next 5 years or so to have most of the tools that become compatible with Cyclone DX. From the Linux Foundation, so open source, this is my culture. SPDX started from in 2010, for those who already heard about that from FOSS Bazaar. Currently, the version is from last year, 2.2, and it's focusing on communicating too, so communicating between the different tools and between the different parties on software provenance, software licenses, security, and all that kind of information. So it's probably the most active one, although, as I told, Cyclone DX is probably the most standard one. These standards, so the 3 standards I have mentioned, they focus on the content. So what is inside the BoM? They focus on the identification, how to identify, think about the tag. They focus on automation. How is it generated? And it's here that I see today the most important value in building a bill of material. How it's communicating. So how do I communicate the bill of material? What format is it? What syntax is it between the different tools? And for those who already do it, it's the case of SPDX. It should be the case very soon of Cyclone DX, the completeness. So the knowledge if my bill of material is complete or not. So does it include environmental factors? Does it include dynamic metadata? Or how is it handled, at least? So, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, the bill of material at the end of the day is an artifact, is another artifact, okay? So where the BoM used to include source code, branches, name of the snapshot, environment, a list of all the tools that were built with the version, with maybe an archive of the tool, in case it's not easy to find it in the market, although internet is full of resources for that. The instructions to perform the build, the locations, and so on. Now it also includes all the Ascode sources. So for test, scan, infrastructure processes, most of you know what the description of an infrastructure can be. Most of you know what description of a scan can be with check marks in my example. Most of you know what a test with Selenium can be, what a pipeline with Electric Cloud can be, what another pipeline with Jenkins can be. So here, these are only examples, but it's typically part of my Escrow. And to finish on what it's inside, the result of the scans, again, the latest state of the art, this is the example I was talking about. We are seeing it now. Compliance and audit. To be able to say and to show compliance results immediately on request. My example I wanted to close that talk with is sometimes like 3 years ago. Okay, we are talking about a workshop I did, you see it was in June 2018. So yes, a little bit more than 3 years ago, where we had an application. So we had a pipeline, several tools, we were scanning an application, we were building the application, the code, the CI, the analysis, the pipeline, releasing into production, and the different analysis of an application that was using Struts 2, okay? At that time, Struts 2 version 2.5.10 was analyzed, and there was no specific vulnerabilities. But at a certain point in time, CVE 2017-5638, a vulnerability has been discovered on Struts 2 before 2.5.10, version 2.5.10, which means that, as I told you just before, if I did the analysis the day after, connecting to the database of the vulnerabilities, the result would have been red because it was vulnerable. So it would not have let me take it into production, which is what I'm looking for. So the bill of material would have contained a failed scan with my scanning tool. I would have seen that I had a vulnerability I did not want to bring into production in my library, and I would have been asked to upgrade to the new version, which in that workshop, we used the 2.5.13, which was bug-free. So as a conclusion of that, we've been talking about bill of material on whatever type of application, okay? I did not use the type of application. I did not talk about technology, because you can build an application, a traditional one. You can use Java, you can use whatever language you can use. You can build a container. You can bring it into Kubernetes. The idea does not change. I'm building my bill of material because I want to have a control on how my software is released. Obviously, virtual technology and containers will help. Okay, they do help us. It's easy to keep the environment information through the use of snapshots in virtual machines, through the use of containers. Okay, it's very easy to keep old version of the tools and to archive them. So we have that ability to keep the snapshots, to use containers. Let us do it, including putting them in the escrow account as the content of the bill of material. It will make our life much easier. And also on the containers, okay, ahead of the flexibility on the other benefits that we all know of the containers, and this is not the purpose of that session, although the benefits of the architecture, they are also a very nice way to package and to deliver an application. They can include the application code, which can be hidden in the container, the dependencies, the operating system, the licenses, the result of the scans of the test, the configuration files, the data files, some metadata also. So they can be on their own the home of a lot of information from the bill of material. So another use of containers is to put in these containers all the information I want to have in my bill of material. It's an automatic archive in that case. So just to finish, I want to finish on that slide with the typical use cases of the bill of material. Typical use cases, we are talking about automation for deploying and release software, but not only. I've been talking about compliance, know what has been released, be able to show and answer to reviews, to audit, cross-organization or external. Security is another use case for assessment, for DevSecOps automation. The more I automate my security and the more I have information in my bill of material. And obviously understand the complexity. If building my bill of material is easy for me, then I have better understanding of my application. And just to finish, so just like Unix YAC, for those who worked on that technology, yet another compiler, which was too many years ago, 75, the bill of material could be described on something like yet another artifact, okay? It's an artifact of artifacts. This is where I want to go. So to go back in the summary slide, which was the message I wanted to deliver, single source of software delivery truth. The bill of material, which was meant to describe how software was built, is now meant to describe how software is released. This is an extension of the notion. This is an extension to answer to audit and compliance. We also have the results of what we're doing. And it's focused on the two levels of security: secure my software, but also secure the supply chain of my software. So it was made of source, that bill of material. Now it's made of results that change over time. So the bill of material itself can change over time. And for that reason, it's becoming an artifact that is attached to the version of the application that we are releasing. I want to thank everybody at the DevOps India Summit for this year, especially Niladri for organizing that session. Thank you very much. Hope we will have some very interesting exchanges around the bill of material. Do not hesitate to contact me through the conference itself. And happy coding, happy DevOps, happy summit to all of you. Thank you very much.